Alright, welcome back. We're in series 21, which is Bereshith, which is also known as Genesis. This section is going to be done in two parts. It's going to talk about, other gods, idols. You want to look up the word idol, find out what that is. That's going to be a key point in here. You're going to see the character of women being sneaky, and how they present themselves doing that, deceiving and lying and things like of that nature. So, the importance of women and how that's important is this is teaching you what not to do as a woman. All right, so you see all these character flaws, you see all the things that you're going to be presented with and facing for temptation. Just don't do it. It's that simple. All right, it's one life. After you're 25, you're not going to be 25 anymore. Just keep moving forward. I mean, like, you can't go back to your teenage years, your childhood years, none of that. You can't go back to relationships you wish you never got out of, none of that. You already had kids. If you already do, you can't go back to having no kids. If you want to be single and things like that, it already happened. And even if your kids pass away and things like that, they're still yours. There's this heaven, and then there's another place for those who go. And that's for those who follow the scriptures. Now, if you believe in the same God of this word and things like that, you should have faith that your children are going to heaven. You shouldn't worry about that. You should train them in the right way that they should go, as it says in scripture. But as we go further down, we'll see more of that in other scriptures. And also, this talks about how women play with themselves as well. It's like some situations they create on their own. They're the only one that knows about it. And then instead of just telling someone or coming out and telling the truth, they go through all this, just watching examples to see how the person is going to react, their response. And then they get better at deceiving and hiding things. They get better at lying. All right. So one key point to point out is the deceiver. All right. When you're reading scriptures, find out who is deceiving. That also goes back to the serpent. And most oftentimes that's who, the enemy is using. Right. And then also other gods is brought in here. So that could be like witchcraft. That could be all other types of things, So that'll be talked about in further series going on. But you see that the homosexuals that was talked about in earlier passages, they are also used by the enemy. The devil is able to use them. The serpent is able to use them, just like he was able to outwit and deceive Eve in the garden. All right. So that's something to be prepared to think about. Chapter 31, starting verse 4. And Jacob sent and called Rahel and Leah to the field, to his flock. All right. So that's the key point. If you want to know what's going on before then, you got to read the previous passages. Verse 5, and said to them, I see your father's face, that it is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me. All right, so now he's bringing in God. All right, he knows that God has been with him because all this that's happening, that's going on, the deception, God is still bringing him out, and he's still with him. How is God of his father still? He bringing his father up, right? So God knows that he's going to protect him because of his father, or vice versa. He knows that because of his father, he's blessed, right? His father had given him the blessing. He stole it from his brother. He deceived his mother. Now he was deceived by Laban, her brother. It's a lot of deception going on. And it's like he deceived his mother as well, because they're one. The father and mother are one, right? Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. That was his wife. That's his wife. So as we go to verse 6, and you know that I have served your father with all my strength. All right. So he's telling them, I served him with all my strength. I did the best I could and everything and things like that. And that's what happened with guys like that. They base their efforts on things and they do the best they can to do a good job. But it's those other ones like Laban where they don't care. They want to get their way. If you're small, they think they can overpower you and things like that. They're going to go right into it. They don't care. That's just their personality. That's just the man that was created, all right? Verse 7. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. All right, so did not allow him to do evil to me. So what does that mean? Remember when he first met Laban, he came out and kissed him. Remember? He came out and kissed him. That's how they greeted people back then. So it's different, all right? Now he's deceived him and changed his wages over 10 times. So that means that he ain't had no money at this point, right? So you taking someone's daughters and you ain't got no money. Oh, of course the dad is gonna be a little bit more involved in your relationship and in your life, seeing what you're doing and how you work and things like that. Because if you're not able to work with all your strength and keep it up, especially consistently, you're not gonna be no parent gonna want you with their daughter. If they have to, if they have to do this, overwatch and oversee what's going on, and deceive you just to see your character, it's not even worth it, man. It's not even worth it. All right, not in this day and age. Back then, this is different. Verse 8. When he said this, the speckle are your wages, then all the flocks bore speckle. And when he said this, the streaked are your wages, then all the flocks bore streak. So Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. So we see that, he was trying to, outwit him there. You see that God was blessing his livestock because of Jacob. So the things that he was doing, his household and things like that was being blessed. He gave him his daughters and things like that. So now, he said, oh, you can have the speckled ones. They don't really like the speckled, livestock and things like that of the flock. Everyone with the spots, all the ones that streak, the stripes, whatever, they don't look too pretty. You can have all those. And then all of them start being that way. So that's how he became wealthy. Right now, when you reproduce, all your kids, for females, they might not all come out the same color or the same way. Especially depending on if you have multiple partners or not. So that's something to take into consideration. So God still can use those to create that same race or color. Just like the livestock here. He can still use those with the streaks and spots to come back to look like the ones that don't have them, right? So as we go up, verse 14. And Rahel and Leah answered and said to him, do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us and also entirely consumed our silver. Look what their concern is right here. They're thinking about, do we have any portion in the inheritance? Their father must have been wealthy, right? Probably had some money. They both answered this. And then they said, are we going to be reckoned by him as strangers? Are we going to be treated the same now we married to you? See, that's a lot of things that come into mind when a female is taking a step to be married and go into the life of a man or a male, where they don't know, they aren't for sure about their future. They're thinking about what they had with their parents, the money, the lifestyle that they brought up, and if they're going to get the inheritance that their dad had. Maybe your parents are very wealthy. Maybe your dad probably has a lot of money saved up from work, and him and mom just don't do too much. They just, they sitting at the house chilling. You got older, you thought you had to get married because they had you in church and things like that. You see people getting married, your friends got married, so you decided to do it. But now you're nervous because maybe a cousin or something, or, who knows, maybe their brother or something, or a nephew comes over, and or a niece. They come over and start living with them because they're older now. You're not there, and now you're concerned about getting your inheritance. Then they also bring up, he has sold us. They didn't say he married us, or he married us to him. They say he has sold us and also entirely consumed our silver. They thinking about money right here. These girls ain't playing. They focus about that money. All right, so that's important. You got to have that. So now, verse 16. For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father is ours and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. So Jacob rose and put his sons and wives on camels. So there's a lot that was going on between, these verses that was read. You have to go in and find out. But we see that with the spotted cows and the street cows that they gained, all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father is ours and our children. So now everything that he has gained from serving them and, doing is now his. He got it from Laban. All right. So it's a Bible verse that says the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous and things of that nature. And you ask, how do you know that? How do you know this about Laban and things like that? Well, we're going to get into some more right here in this last verse where we're going to stop at. And then it's going to be some more on the next verses and the next passages. You can read ahead if you want. But we start in verse 19. And when Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rahel stole the house idols that were her father's. And Jacob deceived Laban, the Aramean, because he did not inform him that he was about to flee. Interesting. It's a Bible verse that says, resist the devil and he shall flee from you, right? He deceived Laban. Who was deceived in the garden? Remember how Eve was deceived in the garden? Who deceived her? The serpent. Now we see it's going back. Do unto others you want done to you. Remember Laban deceived Jacob? He's probably thinking, I'm going to do the same thing to him. But he's probably bigger than Jacob, right? So Jacob is probably using his smarts more than, his physical prowess in this situation. Now, he didn't let him know he was finna leave. Maybe Laban was, finna go off somewhere, business trip, three or 4 days or something like that. He got back, they were gone. Now, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. We have stole here. We have theft right here. Theft. This is the one that Jacob wanted. He saw Rahel. This is the one that was beautiful, right? With the form, got the body and all that. That looks good. Good looking. That's the one he chose, right? Remember, he gave Leah with the weak eyes to him first, and he was deceived by Laban. Now, this is another thing. Now, she stole the house idols that were her father. She stole her dad's idols. So we see here that theft doesn't matter if you're related. It doesn't matter if you're, brothers or sisters. It doesn't even matter if it's your own parents. She stole from her father. Now, we know that she's capable of that. What more is she capable of, right? And then if she stole the idols, that mean that does she believe in the same God? There are a lot of beautiful women out there that do not believe in this. They do not follow these scriptures. You may be hanging out with them or something. You'll turn off the vibe if you pull this out and start reading with them. You'll turn off the vibe if you start telling their friends about God or their cousins or whoever you're hanging around. If you just start talking about God, they probably not going to want you no more after that. If you don't go out and drink, go to bars and things like that, they probably ain't going to want you no more after that. If you're not up for going out with them and hanging out and getting married and doing all these things that the world does, you're not gonna get along, especially with this. If you can't pull out the scriptures and she go along with you and she want to be closer to God and love God like you do, then she might be like this, like one of her relatives or somebody like her parent. They may not believe in the same God as you, so if they don't, you're going to be at constant war with each other. All right, and when I say constant war, it's just not gonna go right. It's not gonna be free flowing. It's like having one big wheel and one small wheel. It's just going in circles. All right, but she stole. She stole. All right, so we know that she steal things, right? You may have a girlfriend that's with you. She may take something that you got, and you don't even know it's gone. She just took it. You may think you lost $1 or so. You never know. You gotta watch out who you got. And she's the younger sister, okay? That's another key point. She's the younger sister. Younger sisters are always learning from the older ones, and they know how to get around those mistakes. They know how to, all right, I ain't gonna get caught this way. That's how she got caught, okay? And the same with other siblings, all right? But this is from her dad, all right? So maybe she gonna miss her dad. Maybe she really wanted to stay with her dad. Maybe because, Jacob he's getting all the money from her dad. Maybe she's taking the idols and thinking that she need these with her, these idols, so that, whatever her dad was doing, whatever, maybe it'll rub off on Jacob. Maybe he'll start believing in these same things. Because, sometimes some girls want to do like their dad. But other than that, we're going to get some key points out. Feel free to tune in and read more. But the next part is going to be a lot more interesting. We got some things that's go on in there that you really want to check out. But other than that, God bless.